Hey everyone, welcome to today's PD. It is another pre-recorded. We're live streaming it now. And this is one where I interviewed two special education teachers. We've got Gilles and Christina Herrick, who are going to talk with us, or talked with me a couple days ago about how to use one of the new accessibility tools that we've got on our student and teacher iPads. It's called Snap and Read, and it does some reading accommodations for students. And this helps from struggling English readers, so if we're developing readers younger or all the way up through high school, or for EL students in particular, because it does some translation stuff as well. So this recording is with Christina and Deb. We show you some of the tools. They talk about how it can be used in practice. We mention a lot of different links and resources. All of those are down in the description now, so you can get access to those. If you just scroll down, all of those links are down there. If you want to contact us, obviously we're here in the chat. You can talk now, or you can leave a comment on the video or shoot an email to Instructional Tech, and we would be happy to get you in touch with either Christina or Deb. Thanks for tuning in, and here we go. Snap and Read is a new accessibility tool, and its main idea is, or its main function is to take text and make it more accessible to kids. We're using this, or we're going to push this out, and it's already pushed out for two things. One, it works really well in Safari. Kids don't have to have a second thing turned on to get it to work. It's just there. And we'll start with that, and we'll pull up some kind of article here on Discovery Kids, because a lot of our teachers are using that. But it also does OCR, and that stands for Optical Character Recognition. And what that means is that you can take a picture of a piece of paper that has writing on it, and the app will be able to read it to the students. And that's something that we've been missing for a while, because Deb, when we're working with reading accommodations, if we don't have that iPad tool there, what are general accommodations that teachers could make, or what have we been able to do up until now?
We've sometimes paired with another student to read. We've done read aloud in classes. You know, anything we can do, have a para read it to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and since kids are at home, it's either a parent or an older sibling or a younger sibling. I mean, someone would have to be there. And this is really hard to do for the paper accommodations, because if a kid is home alone, then we don't really have a good tool for that. Christina, can you talk a little bit about some of the reading accommodations that our students have, or some of the reading difficulties that our students have that this tool in particular can help with?
On a teacher side, it reduces the amount of time that we have to give those accommodations, because it does it for the student. And they can determine where they want it read, so it's not like the whole page is read. They can pace it for themselves. And that's, I know on the elementary side, when we use Seesaw, there's a way that you can record. And so a lot of our teachers are recording themselves reading, as well as I am sometimes. And when it's like a small group reading, or like a chapter book, Seesaw will only let you record for 5 minutes. So that's really difficult. So then you're doing multiple layers of recording. And so this really helps that, and will make the teacher side a little bit easier, as well as the student, because they may not want the whole thing read to them. They might want parts of it.
Deb, could you talk about why students might need text read to them in the first place?
Yeah, you have students that have tracking issues. You might have students who, ADHD, they're reading and they aren't remembering or comprehending what they're reading, because they're just focusing on getting it done, and they have ADHD. Vocabulary is huge with some kids. And you have, in the high school, we've got kids who, even though they're in high school, they might be at a first or second grade reading level, but they're trying to read grade level text, and they're working so hard on the actual reading of the text that they can't comprehend it. Or there's vocabulary words that they don't know, which I love that this program can take, a passage and change the vocabulary to it. And you can look and see what grade level that passage is written at, and adjust it for those kids.
And I think that's a really important point to make, is that reading is much more than just reading out loud. There's the comprehension piece you talked about. There's fluency, like can they string the words together into complete thoughts? There's decoding of what those words actually mean. So from the SPED side of it, there's a lot of things that go into that our students at any age may struggle with one of those things that hurts their reading. And then the other side we haven't talked about yet is EL. So if we have students who are learning the language at first, Christina, go ahead. It looks like you want to jump in with that one.
Yeah, actually, we have several students that are at level 1. And so not only is it the English language that's a difficulty, but as well the vocabulary, just like Deb was saying, with terms being too high for them. So again, with this program, what I like is that it can make it easier, and then you can choose what language, and it reads to them in that language. So sometimes you'll have those double layer kids that are struggling as learners anyways, but then you add on the English language issue and you've got a bigger kind of gap to fill. So this really helps with that as well.
I just want to interject one thing that I like is that when they double click on a word that they don't know, not only do they get the definition, they get a picture with it. So that is nice for our SPED and the EL students.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look. So I'm going to pull my iPad screen back up. And like I said at the start, I'm starting in Safari. So I'm on Nat Geo Kids. There's an article here about Bolivia. This could be something you do at any level, but it's kind of in that middle grades level, maybe upper elementary, lower middle school, to kind of get to learn about some of the South American geography. So if I wanted students to read this, once I have the extension installed and I've signed in, it works when I highlight text. So I'm going to just tap and hold on a piece of text, and then I can scroll maybe this first sentence. So this is one thing I like, is that it's not going to force the entire text down that student's throat. They can pick and choose what they want. And remember, we're empowering them to use this. This is not something you have to assign to them. We do need to show them how to use it, but it's something that enables that student to do it on their own. So when we have our text highlighted, I got to get my menu up at the top. So it's in the share menu. And as you scroll down, once I have it installed, Snap and Read is now one of my menu options. So I'm going to tap on Snap and Read. And that's going to open a new menu in the top left of the screen. And now these tools become available. So let me re-highlight this. So I'm going to grab this first sentence. And in Snap and Read, one of the things that's really nice is I can just tap on the microphone or on the speaker icon, and it will read that text out loud to the student. And now you're not going to hear my audio because it's piping through the screen reader, but you can see that it's highlighting the words as it goes. And in the settings, you can increase the speed or decrease the speed based on your student. So, okay, real quick, while we're talking about increasing or decreasing, why might that be an important consideration?
Well, it's still a computer that's reading it. So depending on the child and their comprehension level, they might need it slower in order to be able to retain what's being said. I do want to add that there is a way that you can change the settings here. You can have it so that your online settings are different than your, like when you use the app through the iPad. So I just thought people might want to know, and I don't know if there'd be any reason why they'd want to do that, but I also noticed you can change whether it's a man or a female. And I know that sounds crazy, but some students, it really bothers them depending on the pitch of the person that's speaking. That's the other thing you can adjust. You can make the voice flatter or you can make the voice sharper. So let's say you have hearing issues, you're using a hearing aid to listen to this, you could actually lower the pitch, which actually can increase your ability to hear the words being said. So it must be on the app that you can do that. Sorry.
Well, I think the pitch stuff is in the app, but to get the online settings, I just tapped and held that speaker icon and it brought this menu up. And so you can set the whole paragraph to read. So again, depending on their fluency level or their improvement or whatever accommodations you need to make, you can highlight different things. And then the speed is here, so I can slow it down by dragging across to the left, or I can speed it up by dragging across to the right. And the student can set this. And as a teacher, maybe you help them that first time through, or you take a look at the IEP or work with their the SPED teacher in your building to kind of find that sweet spot. But the student can always change it if they need it. So that's how to turn on the speaking. It'll read it out loud. I'm going to highlight this sentence again because the other really nice thing about this is it does text replacement. So if we're talking about vocabulary, either learning vocabulary or really low here for whatever reason, a word like conquerors or reigned, those words might be outside of their lexicon and they don't know what those mean. And so now we have a gap in their understanding because they just don't know what the word means. When you highlight some text, I can tap on that second icon there. It's got the square to a circle. So I tap on that. It will analyze that text, and you can see words that were then replaced are now italicized. So humans have lived in the land of Bolivia for thousands of years. If you turn it back off, it will replace it. So inhabited was replaced with lived. So it drops the complexity of the text for those students by adding synonyms in. And as a teacher, I know which ones were replaced, and the student can also recognize which ones are replaced so they can toggle back and forth. So if you're doing some kind of activity, you're practicing vocabulary words or looking at those higher lexicon levels, you can use that tool to do this just on the fly for them, which is really, really nice.
Hey, Brian, if you click on one of the italicized words, does it change that word back?
No, so that's what.
Okay.
Okay. So cycle through. Okay, good point. So yeah, it'll rotate the text complexity,
Okay.
but you see here it changes into Spanish in a second.
Yeah.
That word will change into Spanish. So if we have an EL student, it will take a complex English word, give them a simpler English word, and then it'll give them the word in their identified language as well. So they can do that practice right here without having to have separate flashcards or a keynote slide or anything like other stuff. It's just here in context to really help develop that fluency and that context-aware language. So for language settings, I'm going to tap on the third icon here is the A with the Japanese character next to it. So this one you have to select text. So I'll grab that first sentence and a half-ish again, and I'll click on the text. And it will translate my selected text into that target language. And just like the speaker, I can tap and hold on language. Oh, I'm sorry. I can tap and hold on the language and pick a voice or pick a language to translate into. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens of languages here. So this is, again, we're talking about this in terms of our EL and our low readers, but this is accessibility for all. If I'm a high functioning level 4 or 5 English speaking student, I may be conversing fluently, but my academic language is not fluent yet. And so this can help them in that case as well if they don't have that academic English. So you can pick your language there, and you can also pick voice, like Christina was saying earlier. If students have a particular preference for one over the other, you can do the same for that translated content as well. Other things I missed in Safari that we should show real quick?
I was going to say, and just that if they want it read, they have to hit the speaker again to have it read in that voice. Okay.
Okay, great. So I'm going to jump over to the app now because there's some other interesting stuff in here. So like I said, it defaults into your documents folder. So I've got a bunch of stuff in here. If I pull open a PDF, so this could be something I send home through Seesaw or Canvas. It's a digitized copy already. Snap and read. My reading tools are up at the top. So the speaker icon is still there. My text replacement is still here. So this is a lower elementary worksheet. So if you notice, I tapped on that text replacement. It says there's nothing to simplify in this one. It's all kind of at that level where it's as low as they can take it. So you will get some kind of feedback if there's nothing, but it's the same kind of thing. I can tap and I can hold a chunk of text. And you can see I've got more tools in here. So let's talk about some of these. Is this where the overlay was, Christina, I think, or Deb? I don't remember which one mentions the...
Yeah. If I want to say,
I think it's in where the highlighter is, isn't it?
This one. Under opacity. So I can choose a color, right? So
Mhm.
if I want to highlight in pink, and I can change how deep of a pink it is. So that's, can you talk about that first? You mentioned dyslexia in particular, and I know, um, well, I don't know enough to say anything. I don't want to dig myself a hole. So can you just give us a quick primer of how this is helpful? What does this do for those students?
I was going to say, I know Deb was the one that mentioned about using this, but I have a couple of students that will use overlays as needed. Sometimes the black up in front of the white is too much of a contrast, and it makes the letters can move much more. And what they found is that certain colors, depending on the student, because it's not always the same color for every kid. And again, it doesn't always work for every child. It's something that it's sort of a trial and error thing. And sometimes you might use a different color on paper, like physical paper, than you would on a screen. There's an option to help just keep the words there so that letters and there's not squiggling or waviness. And of course, obviously, once a child can read the words, then they are much more able to feel confident. So, Deb, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, you got it all.
I remember.
I mean, we know there's many aspects to dyslexia.
Yeah, there's so much.
So
it's not
overlays
just
are
one
one.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Overlays
I'm going to have to try and find this, but I found like it was a simulator for people who do not have that condition.
Yeah.
And it was wild. Do you know what I'm talking?
Yeah.
Did you see that? It was maybe a year ago. So we'll have to find the link and we'll put it in the video description down below if you want to see it. But it puts text on the screen and it simulates what students who have dyslexia really experience. And it was really eye-opening for me to see, to understand how their brain is processing information in front of them. And it helped me start to make some more accommodations for them. So we'll make sure that that's linked below. So here's a more complex text. This is from our grading guidance internally. So we'll do that text replacement again. And so it looks a little bit different. It grabs a copy of text rather than doing it in place, but you can see that words are still italicized, that are changed. If you tap on them, it will cycle between what it changed from to what it changed to. So they can use this as a guide to do some of that synonym stuff or just the vocabulary development stuff. Translation is the same as well. So if I tap and hold, oops, I'm going to grab a chunk of text here. Come on. And I'm going to tap on translation at the top. This will put it to write so they can read the text in their target language. And then if I use the speaker, it would speak that as well, and we can set those settings. Are there other things in the app that are different than Safari before we do the OCR stuff? Because I think that's really the coolest thing.
Oh, you asking us if there are other things, or
did I miss anything in the app? I think those are the two main ones.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry. My biggest excitement was, like I said, sometimes kids get books, like physical books, and they're expected to read or do like a whole class reading and answer questions, and they can't necessarily remember what was read aloud. This, if you use that little camera section, they can take a picture. And what I love about it is it will say, if like, let's say you have the picture, you hit the speaker thinking that it can read it, it automatically tells the student, hold on, we've got to do this OCR thing so we can read it. So that's great. So then students don't need to know that technical, like what's going on technically. We have some teachers as well that don't understand what OCR means. So it tells them that, and then it highlights on the picture, and they do that with the translation as well. And that's the part that just it creates an avenue of independence for our students, because now it's not the entire thing's read to them, it's only this part, or I just want this little bit, or so. And this allows them to be able to go back to the text and find parts to help them answer questions. So that was my exciting moment with this app.
Yeah. So here's my really terrible picture. I'm tethered to my computer so I can show my screen, but I got just like a worksheet from a book, anything. And I tapped on the speaker, and like Christina said, it's going to say, "Hey, do you want to do this?" Well, yes, I would. And it will do it. And it's actually pretty quick. So it's done already.
Yeah.
And now when I tap on the reader, again, can't hear it right now, but it will read.
Well, and the other issue is that if you have word cut off, like it looks here, it won't.
Mhm.
So, you know, you can also take a picture on your camera, like your regular camera app, and then you can crop it, you know, to fit the words.
Oh, to the text you want, yeah.
Like, you know, and if you look, you have like that purple at the top, you can, you know, chop that out, or, you know, anything that's like a little extra that you didn't want it to look at and read. You can do that.
Got it.
Well. And
Yeah, you can get rid of those distractors in
Mhm.
the app. And then I haven't tried it with Sora, but it works with Overdrive. So if you check out books from the public library on Overdrive, it will read it. So my kids who are reading, you know, Of Mice and Men or To Kill a Mockingbird, instead of us finding videos on YouTube of someone reading it to them, they can have the book checked out, and it will, I read it to them that way.
Yeah, and
So
same
here's
thing, like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was like, speaking of that, here's an awesome thing. I just brainstormed this is a child that's using like Seesaw, and let's say it's an image PDF that was placed in, the child could do a screenshot and then have it read, and they can annotate and literally put it back into Seesaw.
I have, I've been using it with some of the Canvas assignments for my algebra class, where it can pull it down and it will read the problems. There's a little issue with some of the math words not being read. That's like the one hiccup I found, but the kids can annotate and write and do their work and then turn it in Canvas for us.
Yeah, and that was going to be my
That's
point. So Seesaw the Apple screen reader doesn't work with Seesaw. So if you have something embedded in there, it's not going to do it. But Christina suggested screenshot it, throw it into here, and the student can read it and then go on with their day. So there's still some teaching that has to go into how to do these things, but they're all skills that the students already have. That, like, I would be surprised if students did not know how to do screenshots at this point, unless we're talking like littles. But for the most part, they have the skills they need to get the most out of this that they can. Last thing I want to show is that there are annotation tools built right into this. So if they're doing some kind of work, the pen icon up there at the top will turn on the pen, and they can draw on the screen or highlight or do whatever. So the app itself will provide that reading accommodation. And if your prompts are there as well, the prompt is read, and then they just do the work right here. They don't have to go out to do something else and then come back to get instructions again. They can complete it all right here. So if you're using PDFs, or if you have paper copies that have instructions in them, they can continue to do it digitally and then get it back to you in the best way. So take advantage of that as well. They don't have to go out to go do something else. They can do that work here as well, which is really, really nice.
The one thing that I do want to let teachers know, if, you know, once we get this started, is that if you do post something, that quality of that PDF needs to be good. It can't be like a picture off of a screen, or, you know, because that makes it harder for the OCR to identify the text. You know, mostly if you do a PDF through like the copier, or you just make sure there's like nothing around it to create a shadow. I think this is a game changer for a lot of students. And I, for elementary kids, in 6th grade is when the accommodations for everything can be read aloud. This just changed this year. So everything, including the reading comprehension parts of tests, can be read. And so this is a great tool, I feel like, for 4th, 5th, and 6th to get them ready for using a tool like that. So it will help them with standardized tests.
Any closing thoughts about accommodations for the general population, or tools like this to help students as kind of best practice overall?
I'm going to say it like, I don't think this is something that can just be done with a special population. I don't see why general ed teachers couldn't teach this as well to their students. I mean, kids need to learn how to use their resources. That's a constant thing. They have things like cell phones that they use, you know, to do that. And this is just another resource. And I think that, yeah, I don't see why having something read or having the ability to annotate it wouldn't be good for any student. So
I completely agree with you. Like any student, and I think as our kids get more familiar with it and use it, they're going to be teaching us different things in different ways we can use it to help them be more effective at school and doing better.
All right. Thank you both so much for your help. It's like I said, I can figure stuff out, but the practical in-person use is really what I needed help with. So thank you both. So Deb's at West, but she is the secondary SPED ambassador. So she covers anyone. So if you're watching this and you want to contact Deb, you can do that. We'll put her contact there. Christina, you got to remind me your building because I can never keep all the
Eastwood.
Eastwood. Christina's at Eastwood. Same thing for the elementary SPED team. She's a resource at the district level as an ambassador, so feel free to contact her if you are teaching the lower grades. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.